Thanks for staying. Okay, now we'll begin talking about the 288 CBN's Monetary Policy Committee meeting that was held in November. So I've got with me an economist and non-executive member of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Professor Mike Obadan. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you very much, Blessing. It's my very great pleasure to be with you.
It's been a long while.
Well, I've been on the road and air most of the time.
But it's good to have you on the show today. So quickly, let's go over to the last MPC meeting. When I say MPC, sometimes I guess some don't follow. So Monetary Policy Committee, that's MPC. So the last MPC meeting of the CBN, a change was made. Everything remained as it were in the previous meeting. So notably, MPR was raised to 16.5%. So let's talk about that. Why was it raised?
Well, thank you very much, Blessing and viewers. MPC was raised from 15 point MPR, that is the monetary policy rate, was raised from 15.5% to 16.5%. That is by what we call 100 basis points, or by 1%. Unlike the September meeting, where an aggressive hiking or raising of the monetary policy rate was implemented by 150%. But actually, I think, some stakeholders before the November meeting were still expecting the bank to further hike the monetary policy rate in an aggressive way to perhaps, over 150%, by over 150%. But the central bank decided to moderate the rate of increase of the monetary policy rate to 100 basis points, or just by 1%, which means then that even though there is the need for tightening or restricting the monetary policy stance, it was felt that the rate of increasing the monetary policy rate should reduce, should moderate, because we have started seeing some dividends from the previous tightening of monetary policy stance. For example, even though the year-on-year inflation, headline inflation rate, increased to 21.09% in October, we observed that since August, the month-on-month, that is to say, the changes in inflation rate every month were reducing. And from August, in August, the rate of increase of inflation on month-on-month basis was 1.8%. Then in September, it further reduced to 1.4%. And by October, the rate of increase of inflation further reduced to 1.2%. That was good news to members of the Monetary Policy Committee, because it signaled to us that price development or rate of increase of inflation had begun to respond to the tightening monetary policy measures implemented since May 2022. And so we felt that, yes, it's still desirable to further maintain a tightened monetary policy stance, but not in an aggressive way. And we are expecting that, in the next few months, we should start seeing much more reduced rates of inflation. Secondly, the economy is still in a challenged situation. It's highly challenged, just like the global economy. The rate of growth of national output or the gross domestic product, even though was 3.55% in the second quarter compared to 3.11% in the first quarter, because of the numerous headwinds in the global economy and in Nigerian economy. The expectation as at that meeting was that in the third quarter, we are not likely to have a growth rate of the gross domestic product as high as what we had in the second quarter.
Okay.
And therefore, there was the need to moderate the rate of tightening of monetary policy, which could, hurt the growth rate of the economy. I think those were the major considerations.
Okay, when in September the credit reserve ratio (CRR) was put at 32.5%, there were concerns, and again, it remains that way.
Yes.
Do you think it's going to be productive leaving it at that and not reducing cash available?
No, not really. If you consider the nature of challenges, that the economy faces at this point in time, what is required is a situation whereby the monetary policy instruments are able to do their work effectively. And what is the work they have to do? Cash reserve requirements, monetary policy rate, administrative tightening measures, they all aim at ensuring low rate of inflation or price stability, monetary stability and exchange rate stability. So as at the meeting, the cash reserve requirement figure at 32.5% was already high, and the deposit money banks or the commercial banks were already groaning, that by that policy action, central bank was taking too much money from them.
That's my question.
Yes.
Why was it not reduced at this last meeting?
No, not reduced, because the initial conditions which made the tightening of monetary policy stance, to be implemented, they are still very much alive. The rate of inflation headline was, as at October, 21.9%. And that in itself was far above what we consider as acceptable rate of inflation, which will not hurt the growth of the economy. In other words, the rate of inflation as at October was detrimental to economic growth itself and detrimental to the standard of living of the Nigerian people. So there was still need to implement, stringent monetary measures that could help to bring down the rate of inflation against the backdrop of other challenges from the global economy that are transmitted to the Nigerian economy.
Going into the new year, this is the last month of the year. Do you think that maybe in January, because at that time it's the start of a new business season, we have business people seeking loans and all of that. So given these considerations, there may be need to reduce the CRR rates.
Well, we do not know. The next meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee is towards January ending. Is at that meeting that an evaluation of the impact of the previous policy measures, will be done, and appropriate decisions, taken. But let me assure you that even the liquidity available to the commercial banks have not been used up by way of loans. In other words, the banks still have a lot of loanable funds in their vaults that they can lend to customers, investors, consumers that require loans. And that is even the reason why the central bank put in place what we call a loans to deposit ratio, which at the moment the target is 65%. Every commercial bank is supposed to meet the target, that for every deposit that the bank receives, it should lend at least 65% of it. Not just deposit, any other funds that become available, like receiving funds from abroad. Commercial banks do that. We expect that 65 naira or 65% out of such funds or deposit must be given as loans. As of today, only few banks probably have met that target. Many others are having about 50-something, 58%, and so on, which means then that they have not really exhausted.
There's still some excess.
Yeah, there is excess. There's still a lot of money with them, that they can lend to the public. We want them to lend. That's why that policy was put in place. It's through lending that businesses have loans and they can engage in investment, employ people, and hence be able to reduce poverty and also spur the growth rate of the economy.
Okay, talking about money, this is away from the last Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the CBN. We've noticed that once it gets to the youth side, if you go to the bank and you need cash, you're not giving exactly how much you intend to withdraw. That usually is the practice, particularly like 2 weeks to the end of the year. Do you foresee that kind of practice happening? And any explanation as to why the bank does that? You want to make a withdrawal of 50,000 naira, for instance, you're giving 30,000 or 20,000. It's even worse using the ATM machines, except people go over to POS stands.
Well, let me assure the public that the central bank puts enough money into circulation. Banks, for quite some time now, have a good number of them have started engaging in sharp practices. It's through behaving as if there is scarcity of cash that they're able to make, quick money, sharp money. What you said is very correct. Last year, during the Christmas festive season, this issue you raised, occurred. Many people drew my attention, and I remember I had to call the relevant officers at the central bank headquarters in Abuja, directors in charge of the payment system. And they had to talk to the bank, managing directors and executives, as to why they were holding cash, because that means they were holding cash. They are not supposed to hold. Central bank does not deliberately withdraw cash from circulation and say, don't give to customers. Once such cash has been issued and they are not being hoarded, then definitely it will be made available. So I think from what you have said now, the relevant departments in the central bank would have to start early so that use moral suasion and perhaps some sanctions to ensure that such a situation does not occur again. So that, because by so doing, they are unnecessarily punishing, consumers, customers who want to use cash and so on. But I also want to say that this is not the era of, maximizing the use of cash. What the central bank is promoting really is a cashless economy. And that's one of the objectives of the new Naira notes, redesign. So the expectation actually is that we should make more use of, electronic means of payment, electronic modes of payment through phone, internet, POS, and all that one, rather than going to the bank at a great risk and withdrawing huge amounts of cash. And you could be waylaid on the road, or somebody suspects that you went to the bank in the morning and you took a large volume of cash. In the night, you are harassed in your house. So we don't want such things to happen. So while we expect that there should be the quantity of money that people desire to withdraw during Christmas, I also encourage them to use the electronic means of payment so that that one will not require the use of heavy volumes of cash.
Thank you very much, Professor Michael Badan, for being on the show today. Yeah. It's a relief to know that we should expect that where cash is needed, where electronic transfer is not possible, people would have as much cash to make payments for goods and services, because this is the period of the year where transactions are almost at its highest, and people are trying to get things and get things done, services done ahead of Christmas. Again, thank you for coming on the show. I don't think it's
thank you very
early
much.
To start wishing Christmas.
Pardon?
I don't think it's early to say Merry Christmas.
No, not really. It's already a Christmas month.
Okay. So, Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you very much. Blessing.
All right, we're going to break and then be back to start talking about increasing layers in the tech world. Stay tuned.